Now, East Africa, Kenyan police fired tear gas to disperse protesters in Nairobi and in the western city of Kisumu on Monday. Opposition supporters are calling for officials they blamed for last month's botched presidential elections to be sacked. The opposition National Super Alliance called the protests last week to force out the senior officials of the electoral board, as well as to oppose plans to change election laws ahead of the October 26th vote. Now, Kenya's Supreme Court last month annulled President Uhuru Kenyatta's August 8th election win, citing irregularities, and ordered the election board to organize a new poll within 60 days. The court cleared Kenyatta of any wrongdoing. Now, for more on the protests in Kenya, VOA's East Africa correspondent Jill Craig joins me by phone from Kisumu. Now, Jill, tell us a bit how things were today in Kisumu.
Yes, hi, Vincent. Today in Kisumu was quite tense, to be honest. As you mentioned, Mr. Odinga had called for mass action in two of the biggest cities that did have protests, one Nairobi and Kisumu, Kisumu being Mr. Odinga's traditional stronghold. And I can tell you that today, whereas in Nairobi, usually the protests happen in certain areas of the city, so, people maybe jammed in traffic for, closer to downtown, but for other areas, for the most part, people can sort of make their way through, and that's barring some of the slums, such as Kibera, which would be an exception. But in Kisumu, I can tell you that today it was very difficult to get anywhere. There were probably, I would say, at least 7 roadblocks that we encountered, and they're all very crude. People bringing, rocks and stones and cement blocks out into the road to prohibit motorists from going by. So in addition to that, there were also people, some people were throwing rocks, some people were demonstrating peacefully, just carrying signs. They were all very, very much opposed to Mr. Chiloba, who's the, as we've mentioned before, he's the CEO of the Electoral Commission here in Kenya, and that is one of Mr. Odinga's biggest demands, is that he be removed from office. So today, protesters were chanting that Chiloba must go, and I can tell you that there was a lot of tear gas that was fired. Yeah. So overall, Kisumu today was a tense place.
And we know that has been almost the epicenter of these protests. But question is, the major diplomats, including the U.S. ambassador, have actually threatened the Kenyan leaders with visa bans or travel bans if they don't conduct these elections on time, and that they don't, if they do cause violence for whatever reasons. Now, are you hearing anything from the leaders who are supposed to have met the IEBC officials?
Well, basically what's happening is that we have sort of a volley going back and forth between President Kenyatta of the Jubilee Party and Mr. Odinga of the NASA Coalition. So essentially what happens is that Mr. Odinga and his NASA Coalition will accuse Jubilee of, basically being in cahoots with IEBC and their quote, in Mr. Odinga's words, their criminal corrupt practices. And so he is saying that the IEBC must go, they must be replaced, because otherwise there will be an unfair election. Well, in return, Mr. Kenyatta has encouraged, or at least facilitated, some of the members of parliament to introduce new amendments to the electoral law, which would, in his words, he says that those amendments would actually make it more possible, I guess you could say, for the people of Kenya to express their will. So he is still very much upset by that Supreme Court ruling, although he has said that he will abide by it, but he has called some of the justices thugs. He has said that a judicial coup occurred. So there's a lot of anger on both sides. And Mr. Odinga has also threatened to boycott the election. So that's another thing that people here are, anticipating.
Jill, thank you. We'll be watching this. We know it will take some time to resolve. VOA's East Africa correspondent Jill Craig reporting from the lakeside town of Kisumu in Kenya.